How do you get a sitter to give you a pose that you like? It took a lot of time, you know. It deals with trust, and how do you gain that is like giving something from yourself to the sitter. You can't always take.
What have you found is the best way to make money as a filmmaker?
Get involved in anything that's possible that will help you get better as a filmmaker, whether that's editing, PAing, writing, taking any job, because that helps you as a writer. Be a security guard, be a bus driver, be Amazon Prime delivery, because you're building different experiences and you could write about that and still have a living. There's only until you reach that kind of threshold where you can make a sustainable career with your art or with your filmmaking. But when you're starting out, you take as many jobs as you can. Teach if you can. Teaching helps, you know, any kind of thing. So I think you just have to hustle, find any job, survive, pay the bills. And that, if you can do that, that actually teaches you how to get a film made, because it's not, getting a film made is the exact same way, because it's not easy. You know, you have to use every little ounce of your creativity, your experience, your inexperience, just combine it all and will it to happen. So if you have to Uber drive for 2 months, so you could write for 2 months, you have to make those sacrifices.
What was one of your best part-time jobs that really helped you actually be creative? And then maybe what was one of your worst?
I always said the two things that made me become a better photographer, not a filmmaker, but photographer, was being a waiter and being a wedding photographer. You see people at their worst. It's like, if you can handle that, if you can handle the pressure of those things, that would help. I think it's like, because you know what happens? Plan A never works. It's always plan B, C, and D. So if you could get that in your DNA and your bloodline to always have plan D ready, that's what I found filmmaking is about, is adjusting. So the job that I learned was, because you know how to read folks, read people, if they're happy with the food or not food, or if they don't want you to come near their table. Those are great instincts to learn. So when you're making a film, are you giving the actors enough space? Or does this person need more direction? This person doesn't need any direction. You have to know does this crew member need that? Do we need to sit down? So each one, you have to read people differently and under stress. Stress is caused by lack of time and lack of money. So that's what happens in filmmaking. So people it's like bees running around like, ah. So if you know that's going to happen, and immediately find the solutions. So they say never let them see you sweat, but I try not to let people see, me all riled up. But I'm also crying in the inside, and I'm just smiling through. But but being a waiter helped me doing that.
You will learn to think on your feet, definitely.
Yeah, any kind of customer service thing. Your second part of the question, what job that I didn't like, or?
Yeah, well, I mean, what was maybe, and maybe they're the same ones, that was the toughest, because I was wondering what was one that actually helped your creativity, which sounds like learning how to read people.
Yeah.
The other two.
It's being empathetic. That's why, any job that could get you feeling what the other person is going through, the more you can do that, I think that will help with your writing, that'll help with your direction, your producing skills, because once you kind of could train yourself to walk in other people's shoes, you gain empathy, different perspective, and then you gain an understanding. It might not always be the right understanding, but you gain a different perspective, so you don't be so narrow-minded on your particular view. And I think that breeds creativity. You know, that's the spark that kind of, whoa, now I could create this because this person feels that way. You know, you try to get all that energy and form something. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe to learning how to de-escalate a situation. And so whether you're working in food service or, you know, at someone's wedding or supermarket, there's going to be people that either going to try to test you or they're really angry, and just learning how to de-escalate before the blow up.
Exactly. I think that's it. It's a skill. You know, I was a portrait photographer, and to get someone to trust you, to relax, to get you to do what you want, or them, how do you get a sitter to give you a pose that you like? It took a lot of time. You know, it deals with trust, and how do you gain that is like giving something from yourself to the sitter. You can't always take. So I take that with me working with people, with the crew. You know, we talked about, how can I help? How can we help you? What could I tell of myself that will make me vulnerable? And for you to, you know, for us to gain that trust and that respect, because I think that's important. That's important. You know, just important way to treat your neighbor is with respect, and you want to understand what their life's about.
Right, and I like that, giving of yourself while you're on set. So if you have an actor that maybe you know they can deliver, but maybe for whatever reason it's a tense situation and you're not sure why. I mean, you know, was it another person we interviewed talked about sets being pressure cookers? Mm-hmm. And sometimes there's personalities on sets, whatever. And it's just getting that person to feel comfortable. I like that, giving.
Yeah, and that takes it's like chess. It's like 2, 3. You have to think like 2 or 3 steps ahead. You know, like, and I hate to say it, it's like almost knowing the situation and how to diffuse it or manipulate it and calm things down. If you want someone riled up, what would get someone riled up? If you need that reaction, if you want someone in shock, like this is an interesting story. I forget who the photographer was, but they had to do a shoot of, let's say, I think it was like the Queen of England or something like that, right? And then they're like, oh, she always gives the same look. We want something different. So they were shooting at the end. It was like, oh, she knew, like, the Queen was like a dog lover or something. And at the end it was like, oh, how was your ride here? And she was, oh, it was great until we ran over a dog. And then it click, you know? And then, so all these stories, and when I was younger, I was naive to think like photography is the truth. But no, there's 3 truths: your truth, my truth, and the truth. So if I wanted you to pose a certain way, you know, if I want to light you in a certain way, the sitter would never know. You know, it's so odd to me to that power later. Like, oh, you could kind of manipulate light and story differently. So I try to hold that kind of like knowledge kind of precious in terms of like understanding and one, that if we're on the same page and this scene is about pain, how do we go there? And you need some extra help on that. That's where I think I could come in and maybe help and go, let's talk that out. Or maybe we don't need to talk about that out. Just feel it. Just let it rip. You know. So each actor is totally different. The same with working with a DP. You got to trust each other. That's why it's fun being a director. You work with people because they know what they're doing. You just get out of the way and maybe just like, could you try it this way? And they're like, okay. You know, it's easy now. It's like for me, because everyone who you're working with, I trust them to just do what they're there to do, and that's the best part, you know. I think that's where magic happens.
And just going back to when you talked about working at weddings,
Yeah.
and they can be pressure cookers too. Sometimes it's not actually the bride that's the problem; it's the family.
Oh yeah, it's the family.
You know, did you make sure? Did you get that? You know,
Oh, were you a wedding photographer too? Because I got that same thing. This uncle was like,
I've worked some. Yeah,
was like, I got about 300 photos of them twirling. You need another one? Yeah, I got, you know. But again, it's the client, and you know, client's always right, and you got to like suck it up. But I did 14 weddings, and that was enough. That was enough for me, and I knew that skill set is totally different. You know, it's a definite great. There's some great wedding photographers out there. I think you know, I got a glimpse of it, and remember I told you I was a quitter. I quit all the time. You know, so I quit wedding photography.
Yeah. When did you know it was right? Was it the last one?
When I had anxiety and going, I don't want to do this anymore. So I think when you have that feeling of like I think it's like I made a point if it felt off, I'm gonna try my best not to feel that bad. You know, even if I have to get another job and become a floral assistant, whatever it is. I didn't mind going backwards because I didn't think it was going backwards. I think it was safety, you know, in terms of I want to get used to being where I want to be. I didn't know where I wanted to be. I knew I didn't want to be that. Remember we talked about, like, I knew what I didn't want to do, and I didn't know I want to be a filmmaker, and that was like only until I was 35 years old. You know, I didn't know that's the path. So when I would quit when it didn't feel right, and for too long, I just didn't want to waste a year or 2 years being somewhere I didn't want to be.
Yeah, weddings are tough. They're almost like high school reunions.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of ego, and sometimes it's not coming from the bride and groom.
Yeah, and there's only a certain amount of you know, I'll be in a church and the photographer is not allowed to use their flash, but everyone else is allowed to use their flash. I'm like, oh, I can't use it. So, but that's minor. I value the 14 weddings. It gave me that, learn how to deal with pressure, and because you've missed the moment, you don't go back to another I do. You know, hey, could we take two? Let's do another take, and like, that was it, sir. So if you get used to that pressure, and the pressure to, it's okay if you do fail, because what's the worst thing? For me, the worst thing in life is to die. So if it's not going to kill me, I could survive it. You know, I might not pay rent the next month, but I could survive. So that was, I just tricked my brain to do weird things.